Hello world. This is Tuesday in Douala, Cameroon, where I am. So I would say happy Tuesday. And yeah, this is Maria Banga, your psychotherapist, motivational speaker, lawyer, every other woman, so many things in one. But for the purposes of these episodes about my journey with reading this wonderful book, What Happened to You by Dr. Perry and Oprah, I'm just a person who was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder in 2014, who has been making meaning out of my lived experience. And so I keep learning, I keep learning. And so when I find books, when I meet books like this, I learn about books like this, I get them. I read Dr. Perry's book, The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog, 3 years ago, as I said, and my memory is still. So I'm so proud of myself. I'm just so happy for all this awareness, and that I can use some of this knowledge now to help other people go through their own stuff. Okay, one of the things I do, of course, to keep my brain in check is to work out. So I'm already in my workout gear. I'm just waiting for like 5:30 a.m. because it's like 10 minutes past 5 here. People should still be sleeping, but that's what happens, right? I sleep at 9 p.m. I wake up at 3 a.m. If I mess around with that, then I'm messed up. So I'm really okay. So this particular chapter is called The Spectrum of Trauma. That's what I want to talk about. Because each day I take on another chapter and something like that. As I said, I'd read 50% of the book, but I didn't want to continue this week. It shook me up so much. So I'm just putting this out there, and I can already see that I'm doing much better than the first day, I think Sunday, when I read a lot on Saturday night, and it was like, oh, Friday night, and the whole of Saturday getting into Sunday, I couldn't hold myself back. I just had to really think of tools to not break down, to not cry and everything. But I did like 3 videos on that same Sunday about my experience reading the book. I did one yesterday, so that's cool, and I'm doing another one today. This particular video is even in lieu of the segment I usually do on Tuesdays called Therapist Mark Something. I think I've done like 30 now, looking at different things that could affect our mental health. Actually, trauma. I've once talked about trauma, but when you read this book, you really see it again in a different way. You see all of these cases. For example, this case Oprah was mentioning about one of her guests who had been through so much, and was eventually diagnosed with depression and PTSD. And so Oprah is saying that trauma, in essence, is the lasting effect of emotional shock if left unexamined. No, if left unexamined, it can have long-term physical, emotional, and social consequences, and all those consequences are what can now lead to a mental challenge, a nervous breakdown, and stuff like that. And nobody can tell the brain power of each individual to react to shock. There are people who would not consider an incident as shocking. A firefighter is not going to consider a fire as shocking. That's his job. That's even an example, a case that Dr. Perry used. A firefighter goes to put off a fire, no problem. Okay, next. Until he will get to a point where maybe one too many, or maybe his disposition or predisposition at that time was different. So that last fire might actually cause him to break down and maybe suffer from PTSD. I have a friend who is a retired policeman in Canada. I've read his books and everything. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten his name. He sent me his books, 3 books from Canada. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so he had been used to shooting, doing things and stuff, but there was one shooting which led to his crash. So it can happen. The shock, each person's own. They say there is the genetic disposition, there's the biology, there's the environment, there's this. For example, a child who is in nursery school, class 1, in that same school where there's a fire, that shock can get to that child much more than it will get to a child who is 17, for example, up there, and who can jump over, or who can say, okay, well, my life is not ending and stuff. But for the 1-year-old whose brain is still developing and everything, even for the 5-year-old, for the 10-year-old, for the 17-year-old, it depends how they came to school that day, what's going on in their home, all of that. Sometimes people commit suicide because they're just fed up with the accumulation of things that have been going on in their lives. I'm talking about myself, right? Um, from an abusive childhood to, challenging teenagehood, and now an abusive marriage, and things not working out left and right, and me not knowing what is going on. I just got fed up to the point where even though I was pregnant, I wanted to end my life. So the spectrum of trauma is something to really be examined, and yes, to acknowledge it, and then to start looking out for tools and people who can help you, like professionals, psychotherapists, and psychiatrists, all of that. Don't hold back. Don't be, so aloof and so full of yourself, like, no, that thing is for weak people. I'm not weak. What are you talking about? No, mental health is not for real and stuff like that. No, I actually use my lived experience and I to share just so that people can relate and people can know that if I sitting here can say these things happen to me and these things are for real, what about you? So I'm going to, end today by inviting us to be more real to our reality. If you're going through some emotional shock, please reach out for help, right? Okay, so you can find this book on the Amazon and different, I think, book outlets. And my own books, if you want to know more about my story and journey, I've written 7 books. They're all there on the Amazon to Kindle and paper. You subscribe to my channel. You can find me on Instagram, my Facebook page. Well, until maybe next episode, maybe this evening, maybe tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, everybody. God bless us all.